What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome. Thursday night. That means it is matchup points. Don't adjust your TV sets. You're in the right place. John could not be with us this evening. He ran into some traveling issues. Instead, I have been allowed on the other side of the glass here, holding this thing down. But don't worry. We have Graham Barfield and Brett Whitefield here to keep us on track and give you guys the information that you will need for this weekend, including, well, tonight's game, Rams 49ers, 48 and a half over under here on this week. Guerrero apparently active, but Brett, we were talking before this. Shanahan can keep his devil magic. I'm not buying it. What do you see with this matchup? Obviously, the Rams pushing, well, both teams, Rams and 49ers, pushing towards the playoffs. Puka's unstoppable. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I mean, on Isaac, I don't trust it either. A foot injury is either a problem or it's not. There's no like masking that pain. If he was a game time decision, truly, I don't care how he looked in warmups. That's weird to me. And they've done this before with Jordan Mason. He was good to go and got a couple snaps before he, promptly exited the game. I'm not buying. I'm not touching it. If you feel comfortable going that way, or you have to, it is what it is. Personally, though, I had to make this choice actually in a league I'm in. My dad and I have a league, and it's a win or go home situation, and we had to play Ramondre Stevenson over him, and I went with Ramondre because I don't trust it.
That's right, and obviously with Debo and what he's not been doing, let alone what he has been tweeting. What have you seen with Debo? Is this actually he's completely fallen off of a cliff? Is it the system somehow changing a little bit with Jennings? What do you see with Debo?
No, I mean, I want to hear what Graham has to say, but all I say, he looks fat to me, to be honest. Looks overweight. He's hasn't forced a missed tackle in 5 games, guys. That's his bread and butter. He doesn't have the breakaway speed that we're used to seeing him have. You take those two things away, and I'm not really sure what he brings to the table. And just because I said this, he's going to go off tonight, by the way. But
right,
yeah, lock in your Debo alt overs of 80, 90, 100 receiving yards. Yeah, I don't think Debo's washed. I just think he's dealt with a ton of injuries. He had pneumonia back in week 7. I've been putting him on the sit list in my article. This is the 3rd straight, maybe 4th straight week he's on the sit list. I have a little more like bullish opinion of Guerrero than you guys. They didn't make Izzy Abanikanda active, so it's just Guerrero and Taylor, which makes me feel a little more comfortable with Guerrero's volume. I do think it's like that Stevenson versus Guerrero call is close. I would actually lean the other way. I think he might. I know we're not trusting Kyle Shanahan, but I don't think Guerrero's like must start by any means. But I think he projects really well. And if they didn't bring up Abanikanda, it's definitely good for his health. As for the rest of this game, Thomas, you mentioned Puka. I mean, he is like, it's Jamar Chase is the wide receiver 1 in a runaway. Puka's like putting some pressure on him though. 22.7 fantasy points per game in his 6 full starts. Thomas, you were all over this with Chase. You and I and Hilo, we co-hosted a best ball stream over the summer together every single week, and you were saying draft Chase at 101. That ended up working out perfectly. Puka is like the nuts in this game, I think. I wanted to get your opinion though, Brett, real quick before we move on to the next game about Kupp. They obviously got him involved a little more downfield last week, which was good to see. Kupp's basically just been like, getting those shallow targets around the line of scrimmage. I don't know. 49ers have been better against slot receivers, though, as of late, Brett. What do you think of the spot for Kupp?
I mean, the 49ers pass defense has been so up and down. It really comes – I've said this so many times, but if you can hold off their pass rush, those guys can't cover.
They're getting Bosa back tonight, man.
Yeah, you're getting Bosa back tonight. Rams have been pretty solid, though. I think over the last 5 games, Matthew Stafford's faced like the 5th least amount of pressure in the NFL. Like a 23% pressure rate against, which is really, I mean, that's just juicy through Matthew Stafford. But I think the issue for me, the bigger issue is when you look at the context of that Buffalo game, it was they sold out to stop the run. Game script was getting out of hand. You don't see Buffalo ever decide to stop the run. They play with 60 6 DBs more than any team in the NFL. They never play 3 linebackers, but they did. They went single high, and they're a 2-high team. They brought the safety down the box. They put an extra linebacker on the field, and they sold out to stop the run, which I felt like opened the door for Kupp to start getting more active in the vertical game. I'm not sure that happens tonight, though. And I know San Francisco runs a lot of cover 3, but it's the way they run it. It's like, is the line of scrimmage going to be super congested? And because if it is, then yeah, I think Kupp might have a decent game. But if it's not, I think we're back to Kupp being kind of that short A-dot, low A-dot kind of, easy peasy merchant.
Interesting. Yeah, I was wondering if you saw that as just like a 1-game thing, which it sounds like you do. So yeah, nice. Yeah, Puka. Guys, Brett, I want to get your thoughts on this. Puka reminds me of Larry Fitzgerald. The way he moves, man. The way he's explosive as hell. Like, he's got that body type too. Like, freight train after the catch. Fitz was so good after the catch.
Yeah, my comp for Puka coming out was he had like it was one of those, he's got this of this guy, this of this. It was the body control of Justin Jefferson, the route running of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the yards after catch of Larry Fitzgerald. So I think you're spot on there. So
nice. Yeah. God, man, he's been so freaking good. So good. By the way, Purdy's back to full health, guys, right? We're like fully in on Purdy, back again on fantasy, right? All in.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, which would be
Juwan Jennings in this matchup a lot. Yeah.
Right.
Just about to go with Jennings. You're obviously playing him. He has been an absolute stud. Stafford has been on fire as well. So obviously this is just kind of a play all of your guys kind of game. Keep an eye out for Corum. Look, before we tweet that it's the downfall of Kyron Williams like we do every single week, just remember you're going to see Corum on the 3rd series, maybe into the 2nd. We'll see how long the 1st quarter goes. But keep the tweets and drafts this week, because Kyron is still very much a thing. Let's move on to our first game on Sunday. This is Cowboys and Panthers. Panthers are favorited with this game, a 43 over under. That is a testament to how Bryce Young has been playing. Let's start with it on the Panthers side of the ball. Adam Thielen seems to be the key to unlocking this whole thing. Graham, what do you see with the Panthers offense? Are we all in this week versus Dallas for the fantasy playoffs, or are you weary?
Yeah, not just favored, Thomas. It's the first time they've been favored in 728 days. The last time they were favored was actually week 15 in 2022. So it's been basically two full seasons.
Oh, Dallas.
Thielen, unbelievable. I mean, Thielen is balling out, man. Looks really quick in and out of his breaks, averaging 2.5 yards per route run since coming back. Film looks good. Efficiency still looks good. Targets have come up in every single game. He's up at 32% last week. It'd be interesting to see. Jalen Coker should be back this week, but Thielen's playing so well, Brett. Like, I can't imagine they want to take him off the field. It'd be interesting to see if they play Thielen a little more outside, maybe try to get Coker a few routes. But, man, I mean, the connection between Thielen and Bryce has been really good. Like I said, Thielen looks quick, and he's been scoring like a really solid wide receiver too. Brett, what have you seen from Bryce as of late? Continued to kind of build on this momentum here?
I got a little bit of a hot take for you guys.
Okay.
I'm nervous, but I don't think Bryce is actually playing all that great.
I do not disagree. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I went back and I've rewatched every snap since he's been back as a starter, and he's making the super high level jaw dropping plays more frequently. So he's doing that like 5-6 times a game, which is great. But that's completely carrying him right now. You look at the advanced metrics; it backs up what I'm seeing on film. He's like, I think he ranks, I can find it, 29th in catchable ball rate out of quarterbacks over that span. He's like 5th from the bottom in off target throw rate, accurate throw rate. Like, so those highly accurate throws that we chart, he's like 28th. Like, honestly, he's bottom 5 or 6 in every major advanced metric we have. It's the hero throw rate where he's killing it. Like, he ranks 4th, I think, in those. So again, just those high level plays are there, but other than that, it's still kind of the same, man. And I think one thing that stands out is Canales is doing a better job of, I guess, designing the playbook for his strengths. The motion rate, the play action stuff is all, increased by like 3-fold. Like, we're talking 70% increases across the board. So I think that's great for him. But other than he's just not really attacking the field, I guess, consistently. The arm just kind of letting him down a lot.
Does feel like he trusts Thielen and no one else. It seems like every play he goes to Thielen, he looks like $1 million, and everyone else not so much. Speaking of the weapons around him, Xavier Legette, Brett, I think tries to catch footballs with bricks for gloves. I don't know what is wrong with this dude, but he was a seemingly easy touchdown catch. Of course, I say that sitting in this chair, away from potentially pushing the Eagles. What do you see with him? Is there hope for development? Has he improved? And what do you see for him in this week?
You have no idea how bad that broke my heart, because as a Lions guy, I need the Eagles to lose. And Legette catches that ball, man. We're talking a whole nother story today. So anyways, I don't know. The guy eats raccoon and squirrels for fun. So I'm not sure, man. Maybe that's got something to do with this catch technique, but no, did you guys see that on the Amon-Ra St. Brown and Equinemius podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was on there this week talking about how he eats raccoon, which is wild. Anyway,
that's definitely a decision. That's definitely a decision.
So, anyways, yeah, his catch technique in college was fine. I think it's just, big moment. Like, just it really was this game too. I don't think he's had drop issues this season, but he had 3 or 4 in this game that were all kind of ugly. So,
all right, obviously we're not trusting him this week for the fantasy playoffs. Just someone to watch here towards the end of the year. Let's move back over to Dallas. I mean, Rico Dowdle stacks up really nice here, Graham.
Another great matchup, man. Just like absolutely perfect matchup. Panthers giving up league high, nearly 140 yards rushing per game. And Dowdle's role just continues to come up. I mean, he was at 47% a month ago. He's up at 76%, a career high snap rate last week. And, he just continues to earn more snaps. Obviously, it's going to be tough, though. Panthers, huge 3-point favorites. Obviously joking. But, yeah, he's right there among the best RB2 plays on the slate. Once again.
Real quick, Panthers, 194 yards per game allowed the last 5. So they're going the wrong direction, guys. It's getting worse. Explosive run rate up around 6.5% too. 5.7 yards per carry allowed. Just disgusting metrics across the board.
Oh, my goodness. Well, CeeDee Lamb, Brett, has been playing with a shoulder injury. And one thing that I noticed with his game against the Bengals, he was doing everything he can not to land on it. Fantasy playoffs on the line. Is there any concern at all? Anything that could possibly slow him down, aside from A, who's coaching him, and B, who's throwing him the football?
Not in this matchup. I'm not scared of anybody on the Panthers side. They're giving up nearly 16% of their pass plays against them go for 15 or more yards. They're like in Baltimore Ravens territory, actually. So that's gross. Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about that.
Yeah, and then imagine if teams actually had to throw against them, because the Panthers just get run on constantly because their run defense is so bad. I mean, it'd be even be more absurd for that stat there.
Right. Absolutely. Something to note for Jake Ferguson as well. Like this game could be over quickly. But again, with the Panthers being the favorite, I don't know. Very interesting to see. Let's go to Kansas City and Cleveland. Kansas City clearly sold their soul to the devil because they just continuously scrape by in games. But Cleveland can come in and really push this, given with how they're playing, how much Jameis Winston is just stepping back. Jerry Jeudy, though, I will take an L on. Brett, you and I had talked about him in the offseason. I called him, I believe, quote, booty cheeks. He has not been booty cheeks. He has been league winning. Does the trend continue with this matchup in Kansas City? A little bit tougher.
No, it's not tougher. Kansas City's can't cover anybody. They stink. They have no pass rush. Their corners, other than McDuffie, all stink. And even despite that, he's been good against good corners, actually. So
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Since Jameis Winston's taken over, too, he's averaging 113 yards per game, which is wild to think about. That's a big sample now, too. We're not talking small sample stuff. That ranks only behind Jamar Chase. So Jerry Jeudy is definitely of the league-winning variety, and I actually really like this matchup for him.
Yeah, talk about proving me absolutely wrong. Cedric Tillman finally off and out of the concussion protocol. Looks like we are getting him back this week. Graham, is it wheels up for every pass catcher then with Kansas City's defense the way it is?
Yeah, David Njoku's going to miss this game too. He has a hamstring injury, so we're going to see targets condensed around Judy. They should get Tillman back. I also like the spot for Elijah Moore. Chiefs have been really bad against slot receivers, as Brett was noting. I mean, their corners outside of Trent McDuffie stink, especially through the slot. Giving up 6+6 schedule adjusted fantasy points per game, above average to slot receivers over the last 6 weeks. It's a pretty good spot for Moore. We're jamming Judy again. The volume, Thomas, is just insane. Jameis Winston is running one of the biggest fantasy football scams in history, but it's amazing. It's incredible. I mean, 43.2 pass attempts per game. That's by far a league high. And guess what? You can't run on Kansas City. They have a really good run defense. It's like the one thing they continue to do well. Volume is going to be really good again for Winston in this spot. And like you said at the top, they should certainly push the Chiefs in this game. I think we keep dialing up the scam. We keep going back to Winston, Judy, all these guys.
Right. So with Kansas City versus the run, I'm guessing you're looking for other options than Nick Chubb in that game. However, the running game for the other side, Brett, how are we liking the rotation here? Do we see Pacheco gain a little bit more work than he did last week even? Is Kareem Hunt kind of toast? People are looking at him as a potential flex option. How do we like the Chiefs' run game?
I don't. I think it's kind of gross. I don't want to be in the business of project. Like, I'm just not skilled enough as a projection guy to tell you who's going to get more work between Hunt and Pacheco. And then to make matters worse, Kansas City has like the second highest pass rate over expectation in the NFL. And they have, I think, one game all year where they didn't have a positive pass rate over expectation. So I don't expect that to really change. It's kind of who they are. It's who they've always been. So I don't know. If Graham has a better take than that for the running backs, let me know, but I'm good.
I think we'll see Pacheco continue to ramp up, but not bell cow, like 60-65%. He was around 45-50 last week. I mean, let's not forget, the dude did break his leg. But yeah, I don't think we'll see bell cow Pacheco really until the playoffs.
Find it interesting that you mentioned the Chiefs pass rate over expected with how little Mahomes has contributed in fantasy, but with Cleveland being able to push the pace, are we finally going to get another decent to really good Patrick Mahomes game this week, Graham? Because I know a lot of people are continuously asking, at least in our Discord as well, the Fantasy Points Discord, which you can get into at fantasypoints.com. We get a lot of Mahomes or Darnold questions, a lot of options here in the Kansas City offense. Can Cleveland push it enough for Mahomes to dial the clock back?
Yeah, I think so. He's a low-end quarterback one this week. He's been that basically over the last 8 weeks, though. He's QB 11 by fantasy points per game. It's all volume driven, like you guys have been noting. I do really like the spot for DeAndre Hopkins, though. Cleveland plays a ton of one high coverage, 64%, and Hopkins has been really strong against one high, 2.7 yards per route run. With Mahomes against single high coverages, he's fallen off considerably in terms of his efficiency against two high. So game stays close. Maybe they get, Hopkins unlocked on, a single coverage here. Kelsey, obviously, he's been great underneath. The problem is, Mahomes is dropping back 45 times a game, guys. It's just like his ADOT is 4.5 yards downfield. It's just there's no downfield element to this game whatsoever.
This would be the game to do it. Cleveland is allowing the most deep passing yards per game and the 9th highest completion percentage over expectation on deep balls. So, like you said, if they're going to show single high, Hopkins has the potential to torch them. We saw Sutton torch the secondary just a couple weeks ago, right? And I would say Hopkins is about, where Sutton's at in their career right now. So I think that's a good comp there.
Yeah, Mahomes only crossing 20 fantasy points in 4-point passing leagues twice since week 7. Definitely concerning. We need him to do it this week in week 15. You guys are telling me there's hope here. I like how that sounds. With what Cleveland is doing and what they're allowing, can Xavier Worthy finally maybe catch a few passes? I feel like, and Brett, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I've seen him catch a couple of hitch routes. I've seen him catch a couple of different passes than what we saw the first half of the season. Is this a sign of things expanding, or is this purely out of necessity? Where are we at with Xavier Worthy for week 15?
I thought we were saving the prospect talk, the Luther Burden talk for offseason.
Oh my!
Oh
God.
wait, you said Xavier Worthy. My bad.
God.
Oh shoot.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's so disappointing. But this is the thing: he can't track deep balls. You can't expect him to be good on deep balls because he can't track them. So they're gonna have to figure out a way to scheme it up for him. They haven't really figured that out yet, though.
Yeah, just from myself watching, keeping in mind I am not tracking these games the way Brett is, because that would be impossible. It just feels like they've changed his role and have just kind of given up on the deep shot role that he had. Obviously, you can't play him this week. You absolutely cannot play him.
Right. This
week, you're playing Kelsey. Obviously, you have to put him in the lineup. So not a whole lot changing on the Kansas City side. And you're playing all your Cleveland Browns. I mean, let's be real. I think we can move to the next game here. Dolphins and Texans, pretty high projected point total. Tua seems to be locked in. The receivers, maybe a little bit of a bounce back week. Jonnu, total non-factor until overtime, which is kind of odd considering he was overtime, which I was not a fan of. Cost me a couple of leagues, not going to lie. Graham, are you playing Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle with confidence after seeing the shift last week?
I'm playing Tyreek with confidence. I'm not all the way back on Waddle. I've been playing him. I've been putting him on my column as like a flex play for the last couple of weeks. The volume has just been really good. It's kind of had like a Cleveland type effect here in Miami. I mean, they've just ditched their run game. I mean, they've just not been as nearly effective all season, especially as of late. And over the last 5 weeks, the Dolphins are the third most pass-heavy team by pass rate over expectation at 11%. That's just behind the Chiefs, just behind the Bengals. And, Tua's having this like kind of Drew Brees-esque season, right? Like he's, probably not stretching the field even as much as Brees was like late in the season, but he's been hyper efficient, 75% completion rate, 7.7 yards per pass attempt, nice 1 touchdown to interception ratio. And yeah, Houston's run defense has been a little up and down, but with Miami, given the way they've not been able to run the ball, Raheem Mostert's still banged up. I think Tua's really good play again this week, and I'm trusting the volume here for sure. I saw the Jets went back to their single high stuff last week, and they got absolutely smoked. So that's probably a big part of the reason why Jonnu wasn't as involved as we thought he would be. But Brett, I wanted to get your thoughts on Dolphins run game. Like what has it been this season? Obviously they, everybody had their entire offseason to kind of like, figure out their system, scheme up against the kind of, cool toss stuff that they do to get Achane in space. Mm-hmm. But what have you seen like in terms of the film? Is there any redeeming quality here?
What makes that system super unique is all of the ball handling that Tua does.
Yeah.
So like you said, the whole offseason with film has been big for stopping that. And then to make matters worse, Tua was gone for a while. And the guys that replaced him don't do the same level of ball handling type stuff. It's so much deception, so much misdirection with the way they scheme that up, with all the pistol looks and the, they'll run counter when you don't expect it. They'll run like split flow counter, which is a really weird concept to think about. So I think teams just are kind of getting used to the way those run keys look now. And then to make matters worse, Taron Armstead's been banged up, and he was having an all-pro type season earlier in the year, but he's not the same. What's the right tackle? He's their best run blocker on the whole line, and he's been gone. So Austin Jackson, sorry. Jackson's not great in pass pro, but he's awesome in the run game, and they've been missing him. So I think that's a problem. I will say, though, that Houston's run defense since the Lions game has actually been pretty good. Their success rate allowed is like top 8 in the league. Adjusted yards before contact is like 1.68 yards. So like that Lions game was, I guess, the wake up call they needed, like to get it together. And I know they also got healthier on the D line. Will Anderson's a big part of that run defense plan and setting that edge. So I'm not too thrilled. I have to start Achane in multiple leagues this week, and I'm not super thrilled about it, to be honest with you.
I think you can get there just on the PPR scamming on its own, but definitely the RB1 dream season seems to be fading here a little bit, which again, we like seeing Tyreek be active, but it's come at quite the cost. If you would. What's that? Go ahead.
Sorry, no, you finished. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to go to the Texans side. So if you want to.
I was just going to say something about Tyreek really quick. Graham hit it a little bit, but The Texans have really, really harsh tendencies in their coverage deployment. They've only had 2 games this year where they've deployed too high coverages more than 50% of the time. Both of those games they got torched. So I imagine they're going to go back to their single high look this week. And since Tua has been back, Tyreek Hill's been an absolute menace against single high coverages. 27.8% target share and 3.15 yards per route run. That is vintage Tyreek Hill. And so I do think he has a great day, even if Derek Stingley is going to try to shadow him.
Yeah, definitely important. Tyreek Hill. We need the blow up game, buddy. But let's do it first.
This is everyone. The spot, man. That's right. A great stat, Brett. This is the spot for it. And this game environment is certainly ripe for it. Texan side, Brett, you've been all over CJ Stroud struggling all year. I mean, we still have him like as a low end quarterback one by projections, but man, I like can't get there for start sit. Like, you know, Brett, you've been speaking more about this, but like, you know, Texans offensive line isn't very good, but yeah, Stroud's holding the ball too long. And for fantasy, he's had a Mahomes type season. He has not finished as a top 10 scoring quarterback in fantasy since week 5. Last game out, obviously flopped hard against the Jags. We need Stroud to push in this game. Obviously, Joe Mixon has all the touchdown upside, but Brett, like, is there any hope for Stroud coming out of the bye here? Like, Texans are leaning more on the pass, but I mean, what do you think of this matchup for him at least?
It's tough because Jalen Ramsey's probably going to shadow Nico Collins. If he's not, they're going to see each other a lot still. And like, I think Nico's almost matchup proof, but I think when Nico has a tough matchup, it shakes Stroud's confidence a little bit. And so their gateway to scoring a lot of points in this game is Nico Collins, unfortunately. So I'm pretty conflicted here. I think this could be what is the over under on this game, Thomas? Do you have it?
Yes,
it's 46.5.
It is 46.5.
Yeah. I'd be willing to contend that this goes under. I think both these teams, their defenses are playing better than you would think. They both want to run the ball, especially in some of the single high looks you're going to get from both squads here. So I don't know, man. I kind of think this game could go under, and that makes me scared for CJ Stroud.
Keep in mind, CJ Stroud has hit 15 fantasy points in 4-point leagues, I believe twice since his 20-some game earlier in the year, or it's an 18-point game. So since week 6, he's not doing it. He's got it twice. 15 points. That's not going to cut it. That being said, obviously we can't play Tank Dell. He has been a massive disappointment. We're fading Tank Dell. Joe Mixon, though, seems to, even Detroit, and I got grilled for this because I happened to say into a microphone on Dynasty Points that Mixon may not be that good that week. Turned out he was anyway. He seems to be a little bit matchup proof. Brett, do you like Joe Mixon this week? Obviously has smashed every week, but like you said, defense is playing better.
I mean, you can't argue with the role. He's going to touch the ball 20 times, so can't, or more than that even. You can't argue with the role. I don't love the matchup. I had some cool Miami stuff pulled, and now I can't find it. What is wrong with me? I got to do the
John defense has been pretty good as of late. It's been better as of late.
Yeah, that's a stat. Just 1.6 adjusted yards before contact over their last 6 games. So that's a huge improvement for where they were early in the season.
Right. So obviously you're starting Mixon, but expectations could change, especially if this game goes under. We'll see what happens. Let's move to Jets and Jaguars. Graham, your guys here are trying to put up a fight in season, but it's bleak. Only a 40.5 over under in this game. I think Aaron Rodgers has a vendetta to stat pad, which has me excited about the Jets. He's ego challenging on the field at this point, saying, I hear you talking about me needing to sit and being done. And here he is force feeding his guy, Devontae Adams, nothing but the football. Good matchup for Adams. How do we see the passing game breaking down here? Obviously, Breece Hall doesn't look great at this point. But how do you see this playing out here for Rodgers in the passing game versus the Jags, Graham?
Yeah, Jags are stubbornly still playing a bunch of man coverage. They've done it 36% of the time in 10 out of 13 games. They've done it last couple of weeks. And guess what? I mean, if they do it again this week, guys, they're going to get smoked by Adams. Thomas, you noted it. Rodgers is funneling his guy the ball. He's especially funneling his guy the ball against man coverage, dating back to week 7 when Adams joined the team. He leads the team in target share at 33% over Wilson when facing man coverage. So, Jags, they do their thing where they run out man coverage a third of the time. Adams is going to eat. Obviously, Garrett Wilson has been more efficient against man, but volume should be amazing. I was screaming at my TV, Jags winning that game last week. I wanted us to keep tanking, get into the bottom 3, win a meaningless 10-6 slapfest game against the Titans. I'm hoping the Jets put one on us here, but yeah, Brett, Thomas noted it. It's not looking good for Brees. They did go with this kind of interesting rotation in the backfield last week with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. And I liked Isaiah Davis more than Allen coming out of college. Obviously, Davis a little better receiver. Split backfield last week. Do you think either of these guys did anything to kind of earn more snaps in this spot? Obviously, we want to play Jets against these, terrible Jags run defense.
I DM'd Scott Barrett Monday morning and said that Isaiah Davis looked significantly better than Braylon Allen to me.
Let's go.
Especially in the pass game. Small detail stuff too. Pass protection. He was in the right spot. Rodgers would make line adjustments and he was always there. And then looked great catching the ball. The routes looked good. The yards after catch looked great. So I would imagine, if anything, he's at least carving out a role in the pass game, which I think is valuable for a team. I think Rodgers is going to use these last 4 games to just go out in a blaze of glory, man. He's last samurai type stuff, man. Just try to take as many bodies down as you can, And so I think that bodes well for Isaiah Davis.
Let's bode well for this run game. Bode well for Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. If he's going on a blaze of glory, just funnel these guys 12 targets a game. Let's get some targets to these guys here.
And maybe, Aaron, if you're listening and searching your own name in the Twitter search bar, let's hit Garrett Wilson on wide open, ankle breaking, soul snatching routes, please. We need to eat. We need many Timbits in my household. And it'd be really nice if you could deliver with Garrett Wilson. For some reason, the only guy in his career he's not able to hit on a wide open route. I think it's on purpose, just to let him know what's up.
No, it's because it's not a back shoulder. He doesn't want it.
Yeah, there you go.
Want it. It's like, that's too easy. I got to prove my worth. So,
oh my, that's not great. Not great. A lot of coach speak in the Jaguars press conferences about needing to feed Brian Thomas Jr. the football earlier in games. Obviously, it's Mac Jones starting. Hasn't actually been, I guess, that different from the blind eye test, if you would, from Trevor Lawrence. But let's talk about the passing game. Evan Ingram obviously hasn't been the league winner that he was last year. The offense has shifted a little bit, but what do we see with Brian Thomas Jr.? Is he a must play this week, Brett? Obviously, he's smashed earlier in the year. Can Mac Jones get us there with Brian Thomas in this matchup?
I mean, to be quite honest, I love Brian Thomas. I don't love the matchup though. DJ Reed is having an all-pro caliber season. Sauce Gardner's playing a lot better, I think, since he got called out. So I don't know. I don't love it. The Jags, they've scored 20 or less points in 9 of their games this year. They're 3 of the last 4 under 10. Just gross. And I know that's not you don't have to rely on touchdowns with BT, but gosh, I don't know, man. It's tough to watch in my opinion. What do you think, Ram? Are you in on Brian Thomas?
The volume should be there, but I'm with you. I mean, he's a volume-based wide receiver too. I'm completely out on the Evan Ingram business, and I gave up on the Jags backfield even with Trevor Lawrence back in week 7. Still giving up on the Jags backfield. Bigsby took it back over last week. I think he should be their lead runner. He's deserved it. Bigsby's been the better back all year, but yeah, Etienne's still pretty good in the passing game. They trust him in pass pro. BTJ, man, it's interesting. Sauce is definitely playing better. They're going to play more man. I want to see BTJ, play, he's probably going to run 40% of his routes against man this week. That's going to be a fun battle for sure. Just going to be about whether or not Mac Jones puts the ball on him. He did a good job against the Texans, did okay against the Titans doing that. Yeah, it's, he'll get 9 or 12, 9, 10, 12 targets, but, it's just a matter of how many of those will be catchable.
Graham, what are you going to think when the Jags draft Ashton Genty in the top 5?
Oh, no, dude. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
That's what everyone wants to see, I feel like. But
why?
I don't know
why.
Nobody wants to see that. Brett.
Behind what offensive line? Behind what offensive? I mean, honestly, I was hoping we get a top 3 pick and just take Travis Hunter, but
corner or wide receiver. This is way off topic.
Corner.
Okay.
That sounds like a conversation we had, Brett, on Dynasty Points this last week, which you can go and check out. Yeah, Tank Bigsby, Brett, you said you actually liked him as a route runner and a pass catcher. It just seems like ETN just seems to be getting those targets. Although there have been games they've played together where Tank is actually running more routes than ETN, just not seeing the results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, ETN's still good at that stuff too. So whether I think Bigsby's good at it or not doesn't really matter. I think they trust ETN to do it. The pass pro stuff is probably pertinent, as Graham said. Like they trust him in pass pro. So I think that's important.
At the end of the day, that matters more than fantasy managers want it to say the least.
It for sure does.
Let's head over to Commanders and Saints. We're not getting Carr. He's not going on IR, but he's not starting this week, which probably nerfs any hopes of a long or big MVS week that we might need if you're looking for a reach here in your flex spots, etc. How does it affect the rest of the passing game? Is there anything to like on the Saints this week, Graham, with the backs? Kamara, we thought no Taysom Hill. Kamara's finally going to score. Nah. It's Kendre Miller getting rugbyed into the end zone. What do we have with the backfield? What can we expect?
Got rugbyed. It was a good job keeping his legs moving though. Now that Dennis Allen is out of town, Kendre Miller is allowed to play football in New Orleans. So it's been good to see him come out and play. It's not just the move from Haener and or Spencer Rattler. Like, last week you mentioned it, the role was significantly worse for Kamara. He was, in terms of expected PPR points, he was right around 18. He's been around like 24, 25 his entire season. Yeah, Carr broke his left hand. I highly doubt we're going to see him for the rest of this year. And Saints are huge dogs this week. They're going to be huge road underdogs next week in Green Bay. Kamara will get 18, 20 touches here, Brett, but it is like scary hours for the Saints offense, and especially in this spot, Washington coming out of the bye.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with their O-line. It's like it gets worse by the week. I think their success rate on run plays is just steadily falling off a cliff as the season goes on. So it's pretty scary.
Yeah, not looking great for them. Juwan Johnson, though, is strung together. Couple of good games at tight end. Tight end has been a toss-up, really, for most of the year. But with Taysom Hill out, Juwan Johnson was expected to do better. He did do better against the Giants. He had 5 targets, right? 4, 50, and 1. If we're trusting a pass catcher, is Juwan Johnson a guy you want playing tight end for you in your fantasy lineups in week 15?
We don't have a resident tight end skank, so I don't.
John's not here. Thomas, we got to save that for John. We'll save that for John. Good call, Brett. It's a much better spot. It's a much better spot for Johnson this week. Route shares come up. I had somebody ask. Somebody was in my Discord. I think they're asking Otten or Juwan Johnson. What do you guys think? Otten versus Johnson.
I'd take Otten first.
I would take Otten.
All right.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson this week.
He's a little too skanky.
Juwan Johnson feels like an emergency smash glass type tight end most weeks. Now you're putting in not Carr, who is not a favorite, if you would, with John anyway, as it is. I think he's a smash glass in case of emergencies. Let's move to the Commanders. Terry McLaurin having a blow up year, but some of that feels a little bit fabricated, with Dallas being literally unable to tackle him and some other really big touchdowns, etc. How do we like in this matchup? Terry McLaurin just must start this week, I imagine, Brett.
Yeah. I mean, Alontae Taylor, for what I think of him, he's fine, but he's definitely beatable. I think he's smashed there, especially with Noah Brown's down, right?
Yeah, he has he had to have some sort of kidney surgery
done for the year.
Oh, done for the year. Okay, yeah. I mean, yes, you want all the Terry you can get for sure.
Yeah, we want the volume to condense here because last 8 games, I mean, McLaurin's at an 18% target share. Brown was at 17%. I mean, it was legitimately close. So,
yeah,
look, not having the spread out target share like Cliff has kind of wanted will be nice, at least to close out the rest of the season. Should be lots of Ertz, lots of McLaurin.
Right, especially they just picked up KJ Osborne. He obviously isn't going to know a whole lot with the offense, and the rest of the wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired. I was hoping that maybe Luke McCaffrey would get a little bit more run, but some quotes from Cliff Kingsbury was that Noah Brown and the Greek god of empty targets, Olamide Zacchaeus, were apparently really making it hard for him with a deep wide receiver room, which that's not great if you're Luke McCaffrey. So I was really hoping this week we'd maybe see a little bit more run, but if those are the guys stopping him, no, thank you.
What is with Cliff and all these small guys like Luke?
I don't know.
Zacchaeus, and then they just got Crowder off of IR. It's like he did this in Arizona too. There was a year he had like Dortch and Rondell Moore, and
he just can't help himself. He can't help himself with these types of guys.
Not college football, my guy. You can't spread the field like you can in college.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was just really hoping for something this week, dynasty-wise, with McCaffrey. But again, the ghost of De'Ami Brown and Zacchaeus, it's probably over. But I was excited. No longer excited. Yeah, we're playing all the receivers and tight ends in this game. Brian Robinson, though, someone I would definitely want to hit on here. Obviously, the big play, first play, and the rest of his game was left a lot to be desired. I don't know what's up with Eckler this week. I have not seen if he's coming back at all.
Yeah, he's on
Graham,
IR.
maybe you do. Okay, so he's done. Let's talk Brian Robinson. Are we all in must play running back this week, Brian Robinson, or is there a Jeremy McNichols problem here with Washington?
I don't know if I'm like all in, but he's like among the best RB2 plays on the slate. They absolutely destroyed Tennessee in their last game out, and all of Chris Rodriguez's carries in that game came in the second half. In the first half, carries were split. Robinson had 11, McNichols had 6. Obviously, getting Eckler out of there will help clear up some of the passing down work. So Robinson's role for the majority of the rest of the season is going to be, I think, pretty good. Obviously they won't blow out every team, but they could certainly blow out New Orleans in this spot. But it's an amazing matchup. Saints are getting crushed on the ground. They've been getting crushed on the ground all year. 5.0 yards per carry. Good spot for B-Rob coming out of the bye, that's for sure. And this should be the healthiest he's been all year too. He had knee, hamstring issues, so he should be an amazing play this week.
They're giving a 61% success rate allowed on zone concepts too, and Washington is a very, very heavy zone team. So huge advantage for B-Rob there.
Yeah, love Brian Robinson this week. And Zach Ertz, he is just one more thing on Zach Ertz. Coming into the year, it was obviously every time you get a rookie that people really like, Benson Out was that guy. Zach Ertz is just Mr. Consistent, and he's going to continue to be this week. I'm playing him in a ton of leagues this week over some other options that we're going to get to here on this program, but I like Zach Ertz a lot this week. Let's go to a game that I have maybe a little bit more passion for than most. We have Baltimore and the Giants. Baltimore obviously coming out of the bye week. The Giants having to play Tommy DeVito. This is a 42.5 over under. This game looks over before it even begins, but let's face it, these are the games that Baltimore plays down to. So trap game is, I don't know, I want to say possible, but
you lay in 16 points, Thomas. You lay in 16 points, man. Let's go.
No. One problem that I might have with this game for fantasy managers and expectations is that it can be over too quick, and they may not need to push the pace. That's a concern for me. I don't know if it's a concern for you guys, but how are we looking? Let's start with, obviously, what we care about here is the Ravens offense. Lamar Jackson has talked a lot about him needing to run more after his mom yelled at him after the game for not taking obvious rushing lanes. You're obviously playing Lamar Jackson, but Zay Flowers has fallen off a little bit from his early push in the season, Brett. Why?
Oh gosh, this is you need a whole show to do this. His role just is always in flux. so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And then he's not a super detail oriented player. I know sorry if that hurts your feelings, Thomas.
Hey, I know it.
He has the movement skills to be an exceptional route runner. It's just not consistent. It's a little sloppy. And part of that is Lamar invites that, right? Because there's a lot of improv, there's a lot of scramble drill type stuff. It's like when they're on and Zay's eating on scramble drill, it looks awesome. But when they're off and everything has to be timing and rhythm based, just forget about it. It's really frustrating. And I'll contend too, I think the Giants, they're a terrible football team, but one thing they've done well is cover. They're like top 5 in the NFL in preventing explosive plays in the secondary. And when I break down their coverages every week, I'm amazed at how well they disguise certain looks. So they're doing some really unique, like cutting edge type stuff in the secondary. It's kind of crazy for how kind of bad that team is. So I don't know. I do think the Ravens just steamroll the Giants. I just happen to think it's going to be on the ground is all.
Yeah, that's the way I'm leaning as well. They might make a few statement type moves with Zay Flowers kind of throwing tantrums now, which is, not usually a good sign, but maybe they use the bye week. But I agree. I'm not playing Bateman this week. And even Andrews doesn't exactly stand out to me in this match. But you mentioned it. Derrick Henry must play. Definitely going to roll out to send a message. Graham, what do you like on the Ravens side here? I mentioned Andrews, but I want to talk about him a little bit. He looked dead in terms of fantasy production to start the year, but he's been back to being the guy here. I have him as a top 5 tight end this week. What do you see with the matchup? What do you like or don't like?
Yeah, he's definitely maybe not top 5, but like top 8. I don't think you can go much lower than that. I mean, he could certainly be 2 touchdowns in this game. Giants have been really good against tight ends up until last week. They got absolutely destroyed by the Saints, gave up 7 catches, 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. We were talking about Juwan Johnson a little bit ago. They got him free a few times. Andrews, the participation, the target share is not good, but he's just, he's attached to Lamar Jackson, and he has a great role in the red zone. 91% of his targets have been charted as catchable since week 5, which is one of the highest rates I've ever seen for a tight end. So, we can hang our hats on, at least the connection with Lamar has been great. We got to talk Derrick Henry here before we move on to the next game, guys. I mean, the potential he has to win your week single-handedly this week is bananas. As usual, he's super game script dependent. Henry's averaging 24 PPR points per game in wins. They're 16-point favorites here. Giants are giving up a league-high explosive run rate. Like Henry might be one of those pieces that's like, damn, in week 15, like I had to have Derrick Henry this week.
Yeah, the thing with Derrick Henry is, again, this game could be over in the 4th, but I think he can get there in 3 quarters.
He could get 30 in 3 quarters, dude.
Yeah.
Also, Giants don't have Dexter Lawrence, which is a big deal for their run defense.
Yes.
They've been bad.
I have one note on Andrews too. I just want to say this to promote the Fantasy Points data suite. We're 14 weeks into the season. Mark Andrews has played 13 games, and he has led tight ends in ass every single week since week 1. He's never given up the top spot. He's got a big juicy ass, and I just want to you see the role coming back. I do think the injury in the offseason set him back earlier in the year, but the participation's gotten better incrementally. And so I do think he's a legit candidate to be good in this game.
Yeah, 7 touchdowns in 8 games since they beat Buffalo handedly. And the catch last week, Brett, was just the throw, the catch, insane. The last time we saw them, not week 14, but against Philly. That was absolutely insane. Heading over towards the Giants, we talked briefly about the Ravens' horrendous secondary, and boy, if it's Brandon Stevens, Malik Neighbors, you, sir, can be wide open, and he's going to have to be. The problem again is DeVito. Any positives here in this week? Any confidence, I should say, lots of positives, but any confidence in Malik Neighbors being maybe a difference maker against the Ravens here, Graham?
He hasn't been a difference maker basically since he got hurt. Since he got concussed, Neighbors hasn't finished better than wide receiver 23 in any weekly game, or weekly scoring. And this is an amazing matchup. He's had a couple of great matchups, and he still hasn't like absolutely smashed. I don't know, man. DeVito is definitely better than Locke, but it's like such a low bar to cross at this point. The matchup's amazing. Neighbors is playing hurt, though. And I don't know if Brett has seen anything or saw anything last week on film, but I mean, he picked up a hip injury. He's been playing through this groin injury. Brett, did you see anything on Neighbors last week?
Yeah, he doesn't look super explosive. The thing that also drives me insane, complete unwillingness to move that man around and get him favorable looks. It's like, we're just gonna keep him on the outside. I don't care if he's getting pressed or has the best corner on him. We're not gonna go out of our way to make sure he's the dude, which drives me insane. And against the Baltimore defense that is so soft in the middle, they give up so many yards at the intermediate middle part of the field, the deep middle part of the field. This would be a great game to move Malik in the slot and just say, hey, go win. Go be a dude for us, man. Are they going to do it? No, they're not going to do it, but they should.
Yeah, he's put up 12, 15, and damn near 15 the last 3 weeks. So a little bit positive, I guess, for Neighbors. Just really hard to trust. I got to say, my favorite part of the Giants offense is Tyrone Tracy. Everyone is looking for the play. Obviously, running back is a highly important position for the fantasy playoffs. Tyrone Tracy has kind of been the bright spot in an otherwise stinky Giants offense for people not named Neighbors anyway. This week, though, I've been saying that the Ravens are like a fake good run defense just because everyone knows you can throw on them. That's been my opinion all year. Like Najee got them pretty well. The Giants, though, they're going to have to throw it. More pass game work for Tyrone Tracy last week. Brett, any confidence in playing Tyrone Tracy this week at all in this matchup?
Why not? I mean, Ravens haven't actually been very good the last 5-6 weeks in run defense. Over a 50% success rate allowed. I think over 2 adjusted yards before contact per carry allowed. And that's against teams that don't really run the ball super well. So not that the Giants do either, but point being, I think the workload should be there. And then if he hits a couple big plays, you're in the mix. For me, it comes down to how much is he going to be involved in the pass game,
Yeah, the role has been really good. Last week, 84% snap rate, way over Devin Singletary. So, at least he'll get all the passing on work. I will say DeVito does scramble and run a little bit more than Locke, but true. I think that's what we're hanging our hats on here is 4, 5, 6 targets.
Yeah, I agree. I'm playing Tracy. I mean, I need him in so many flex spots. Generally speaking, I need 10 points from any running back, and I'll be doing pretty well this week. But I think Tyrone Tracy has a bigger chance for a big game, even though the Giants are going to be terrible, than I think maybe some people would expect. I see the super chat here. We don't really answer start and sits here, but we can try to sneak that in at the end. We appreciate you tuning in. Much love for that. But we do have to keep it going here. We have Bengals at Tennessee, a 46.5 over-under. This is obviously getting built in because of the Bengals and what they do on offense. But Brett, Will Levis has actually not been that bad for fantasy. I've had to play him, playing better. What have you seen from Will Levis, and is it giving you any confidence that they could push it to where the Bengals are required to continue to put up 45 points and potentially lose?
Bengals pass defense is really, really bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, Levis I wouldn't say he's looked good, but he's definitely made improvement. The thing I love about Levis, he's got short-term memory. He's just like, I don't care what happened last play. I'm chucking it downfield. Doesn't matter. So I think that's good. And then the Bengals pass defense is just so bad. They don't have a single corner that should be playing NFL football right now. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So, it's a great matchup for Will and Calvin Ridley and I guess Nick Westbrook-Akine, but I don't know.
Bengals secondary is bad, and they don't have any healthy linebackers, Brett. Like they've lost all their linebackers. I think they just signed who's the guy from I think they signed Deion Jones this week from the Falcons. He last played for the Falcons a couple years ago, dude. Like they're in a rough spot. Rough spot. So to answer your question, Thomas, I think Titans can keep this game close. I think they can cover the spread. They obviously flopped super hard against the Jags last week, but this is an amazing matchup again for Calvin Ridley. And Bengals side, man, it's just like every week, Jamar Chase is an ATM. Obviously, T. Higgins kind of fell by the wayside a little bit last week, Brett. The Cowboys played so much one high coverage. And guess what? They effed around and they found out what happens when you play a ton of one high against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
This seems like a T. Higgins get right spot, though, right? Like, Titans are not going to come out and play a ton of one high.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like T's prop this week too. If you're in a prop bets, I think came in really modest, like 50 yards or something.
Yeah,
we'll have to go track that down.
Right. Aside from the Week 12 game that Patrick Mahomes got against Carolina and Will Levis's Week 14 game, the anomaly versus the Jaguars, he's been giving you pretty replacement level production than Patrick Mahomes, which obviously has come with the help of the touchdown machine, Nick Westbrook-Akine, and an improved role with Calvin Ridley. I need to know if I should be confident in playing Calvin Ridley or not, Graham, because he is like wide receiver 3 on some of these teams with how horrendously down bad wide receivers have been in 2024. Are we confident in Calvin Ridley this week?
Yeah, confidence is a strong word, my friend, but yeah, I mean, I'm confident in the volume. I'll say that much. I mean, the volume's been great since they traded Nuke. He's got 39 targets last 5 weeks with Levis. And, just like last week, it's another ideal matchup. So, he really just needs to connect on one of those deep shots. And one thing I saw with Ridley last week that I liked is they're trying to get him a few more layup looks. Like, he can't just be this 18-yard ADOT guy. Like, get him a few shallow crossers, try to let him run a little bit. They got him a few, kind of shorter, shallow looks last week. So that should help the floor a little.
Still misses prop by 4 yards, Graham. It ended.
I know.
18.
God, I know. Man. They had to throw that entire game too. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, and look, since the Buffalo game, really the Indy game kicked off the what are we doing with Calvin Ridley situation, and then the Buffalo game, he had 9 targets. The Indy game, it was we got him 8 targets, but we couldn't manufacture a single reception. Really, since then, and then he had the 3-catch game against Buffalo, but we're talking about 10, 5, 5, 1, 4. We had a 5, a 2, and then a 7. The roll has been nice. He needs the score. Nick Westbrook-Akine, could you stop with the touchdowns and donate one to Calvin Ridley and donate it to the rest of our family? Brett, you had it here. You said it was 65.5 for T. Higgins. You're liking that one. I'm liking that one. Is this all wheels up for Tony Pollard and Chase Brown this week? Like, Chase Brown has basically been Christian McCaffrey, which we absolutely love. Shout out Canadian boy, Markham, Ontario. Chase Brown, much love for that. Shout out Markham, Ontario. Obviously, we're playing Chase Brown. You can't sit him. But Tony Pollard has been unreal. But Tajay's kind of eating into it. What do we see here with the matchup, Brett? Do we like Tony Pollard in this game or no?
I mean, you like him from a role standpoint. Cincinnati also has been pretty bad against the run as well all year. They have cleaned it up, though, recently, and I think that's mostly just a faction of teams having to throw the ball against them at will, doing whatever they want in the pass game. So, but I like Pollard. I like the role, I should say.
Yeah, I like it too, Graham. Anything you see from the running game with Spears that might kind of throw a wrench in everything, or?
Yeah, no, Pollard's role has been pretty good even with Spears. Spears has been mainly taking some of the passing down stuff, but they've been trusting Pollard with pretty much the majority of the early down looks.
Yeah, I love that. I need Tony Pollard so bad. I think we can move on here. We have Patriots and the Cardinals. We have another 46.5. I mean, Vegas, let's switch it up a little bit. 46.5 here with Patriots and Cardinals. The Cardinals just got absolutely beat up. They got, some might say, Detroit Lions in their last game here by Seattle. Got absolutely beaten up. Is this all systems go for Ramondre Stevenson then? Or was that more of a 1 week one-off here, Brett? Because you and I both said we're playing Mondre over Garendo, but it wasn't as easy as I was hoping for with the Cardinals. What does it look like with Ramondre this week? How happy are you with the matchup?
So the Cardinals have been pretty good on first down runs, and it's allowed them to play too high and on their passing downs. That's kind of a tendency breaker, though. Like the Cardinals were just okay against the run pretty much the whole year, so I don't really know. Playing anyone on the Patriots has been gross to me all season. I don't really like doing it. So, other than Hunter Henry, I should say, everyone else can just. So I don't love Ramondre. If you have to play him, he's not a terrible start because of volume. But I'm not a big. I don't know. Even Seattle, they couldn't really run the ball against them, right? Oh, sorry, no, Charbonnet went off. Yeah.
Well, Charbonnet had the 50. He had a 50-yarder, but that was, I mean, the rest of it was kind of the typical Cardinals. Bend don't break stuff. Stevenson's role has been amazing. 70% of the snaps in 5 out of his last games. It's just their offensive line is the worst in the NFL. Brett, I can't do it though, man. I can't take the Drake May slander. May's been great for fantasy, great at least as a streamer on the low end. QB9 in fantasy points per game in his 7 full starts. 18.7 fantasy points per game would make him the QB9 over Brock Purdy by 2/10. He's just 42 rushing yards per game. Cardinals haven't faced very many scrambling quarterbacks, but they did give up 39 and 2 touchdowns to Josh Allen. They gave up 47 and a rushing yard touchdown to Jaden Daniels as well. So, May is available in like 90% of Yahoo leagues. Like this is a great week for quarterbacks in fantasy, but if you do and desperately need a streaming quarterback, May is once again somebody I'm willing to pound the table for, and Hunter Henry. Cardinals kind of, they're pretty tough against tight ends, but I mean, Henry's like the one guy who's consistently involved here. He has at least 18% of the targets in 5 out of his last 6. So like the Hunter Henry shout, he's kind of had like a Zach Ertz type season where, you're never going to get a 0 from him.
Yeah. I was going to ask if Hunter will be in the henhouse this week with how the Cardinals defense has been reacting. That also being said, I like the matchup for Demario Douglas as well. I don't think he's been what I was hoping for, but a nice, very cheap stack option, if you would. Like you mentioned, Cardinals obviously gave up enough to JSN with a 582-1. Demario Douglas, not JSN, but hopefully you can at least provide you a nice floor anyway in this matchup. Let's move to the Cardinals. Brett, I know you've kind of resigned from talking too much about Kyler because he seems to do the opposite of what you say here, but can he finally do enough to get Trey McBride into the end zone? How do we feel about Kyler Murray in this matchup? A lot of questions, I will say, on hump day with Hansen on whether or not we should start Kyler versus some of these other low-end QB1 options. So do we have elite potential from Kyler Murray this week, or is it same old, same old?
As far as McBride goes, New England's been pretty bad against tight ends lately. I think they're bottom 8 in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight ends. So I think McBride already is a good play no matter what the matchup is. But then you mix in that, I think it's a good play. New England kind of if they're get right on with their rush defense, they play a lot of too high coverages on 2nd and 3rd down. And so what you'll end up seeing is they're gonna just basically pave the way for McBride to have a great game while a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.'s got really no shot to be productive in this game unless Kyler's just on a tear. So, which he won't. So don't have to worry about that.
Talk about a team not moving their receiver to let him do anything. Just woeful here, Graham, with Marvin Harrison Jr. Michael Wilson obviously had a pretty nice play the last time we saw him play football. I'm not trusting him either. However, Graham, James Conner has been that guy this year. New contract, smash matchup this week. What do you see with James Conner versus the Patriots?
Yeah, must start this week. Like he's always in the RB2 mix every single week, just like one of the best RB2 plays every single week. But yeah, last week got the bell cow rollback. We kind of saw Trey Benson and Amari DiMercado kind of mixing a little bit. Nah, they scrapped that last week. Conner got 18 of the 20 running back carries. They're home favorites against the Patriots. Conner is an amazing play. You mentioned Kyler Murray, and Kyler's been complete roller coaster for fantasy. You mentioned the questions that you got with John. I'm in on Kyler this week.
Okay.
I think Patriots are burnable in the secondary, giving up the 5th most passing fantasy points per drop back. I think Murray's spiked games have been pretty predictable in the sense that they've come against either just bad secondaries or high game totals. This is a bad secondary with a decent game total. So I'm back in on Kyler. Obviously he's had 2 pretty tough matchups back to back. He's got 3 great ones to close out the season. He gets New England here, then Carolina, then the Rams again in week 17. And that was one of his best games of the season against the Rams back in, I think it was week 2 this year. So I'm back in on Kyler. I don't think he's like a must start option by any means, but I'm not starting him over like the low end quarterback 1 pool.
Yeah, it's the rushing, man. He's finished with 21 or fewer rushing in 5 of his last 6 games. Let's get back to doing what we do best, which is running the football. I see a lot of questions in the chat. We see you guys. We don't do starter sit here on this program, but you can get into the Discord and we are answering questions in there right up till game time. Everyone looking for answers on Gorendo can go to the beginning of the program where we talk about Shanahan's devil magic and that Graham Barfield is a little more confident because Izzy did not come back up. So you can go and check that out at the beginning of the show. We answer all of your 49ers questions at the beginning. Moving on to the next game, the Colts and Broncos. My savior, my favorite quarterback in the league, not named Lamar Jackson right now. Hilo's worst nightmare, as it turns out, on cashing points, but you can tune into tomorrow. Bo Nix, my man. Love him very much. Obviously, to me, this reads as a good matchup. Brett, what do we like from Bo Nix this week? He's a must play to me. Like, I can't take this guy out of my lineups. How do we feel about Bo Nix this week?
I mean, the Colts secondary is bad, so that's something to hang your hat on. They're giving up a ton of big plays as well. The corner situation is really rough. I think Sutton should have a really nice day against this corner group. I don't care. I think there's some coverage data out there that suggests Sutton won't have a good day. I don't buy it. Colts corners stink. That's a data point that needs context added to it, in my opinion. But Nix he's fine. What I see on tape is a guy he's exceeding expectations. He's not doing anything special though. Similar to Bryce, so I think the perception on Bryce is balling out right now. There isn't really any great metrics for Bo Nix actually. So I think he's fine, but he's doing enough to succeed, I guess, and exceed expectations. I'd like to see him run the ball more though. What happened to Konami Code Bo Nix? That was a big part of his success earlier in the year, and they kind of have gone away from that a little bit. So.
Well, he's not doing too much special, but he does have the throw of the year, mind you, with the absolute missile that he launched from like the 2-yard line. Just throwing it out there. The man has a cannon, and I love to see it, just personally. Courtland Sutton, though, has been another one of those league-winning wide receivers. You mentioned that you don't buy that it is not a good matchup for him. Graham, the other player I want to talk about, because he is kind of this one play can hit for you, Marvin Mims, who's actually been getting, hold on, I gotta ask, because there are people that love this guy. He seems to at least be getting more of a role, right? They seem to be trying to find a way to get him involved a little bit. The Colts obviously deploying a really high rate of cover 3, and he has a 2.08 yards per route run. Is this another big play spot for Marvin Mims for people in really deep lineup type leagues?
Nah,
not at all.
Nah, I can't do it. The role has come up, but he was still just 44% of the routes last week. It's a rotation. They've been doing the same thing after Sutton. It's Vele, Franklin, and Mims. I will say for this backfield, Broncos at home favored by 4. And you still can't play Javonte Williams. You still can't play Jaleel McLaughlin. You can't play Audric Estime. This backfield is just an absolute nightmare here. For me, the Broncos is just Nix and Sutton once again. Colts side is, I think, a little trickier. And Brett, for fantasy, when Anthony Richardson has started, Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, their volume is significantly lower. Downs, in terms of his catchable targets, is wide receiver 53. And Anthony Richardson starts, not great. This matchup's really tough for Pittman. Pittman's just in the no-fly zone for against Surtain. What do you think of the spot for Downs, though? He should be coming back from the shoulder issue.
Yeah, I like Downs. I like the way they use him specifically. They kind of hide him, keep him away from press coverage. I have no issues with that. My question is, coming off the injury, are they going to design targets for him though? Some of the yak stuff has been really important for him. I kind of like Alec Pierce in this spot.
Yes.
Levi Wallace is a boob of a corner. Starting for Denver this week opposite Patrick Surtain. And if Surtain is indeed shadowing Pittman, it's going to give Pierce a lot of one-on-one opportunities against our guy Levi Wallace here. So I think that's actually the spot to exploit. I know that's crazy to say.
No, that's a great call. Jam some Pierce props then. Great call.
Yeah, Levi just the play against Judy where Judy took off and was so clearly running like a deep post route, and Wallace just watched him. Like he just didn't turn around, didn't try, high-fived him on the way by like a bystander would at a marathon. Truly remarkable play from a supposed NFL defensive back. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor, because he is a big name fantasy player, even though me personally, I don't feel like his production warrants that. Now, John on the Fantasy Points podcast, which comes out tomorrow, talks about him liking the receiving prop, which I believe is at 9.5. This guy in Richardson starts this year, gets one target. That's just what he gets. And he needs to get through on the ground. But Richardson he's just running the ball in. Jonathan Taylor is not having the same success. Must start this week for you guys. Graham, how do you feel about Jonathan Taylor with this matchup?
Yeah, I'm a little scared, to be honest with you. Broncos have been really good last 8 weeks, 3.3 yards per carry allowed. Yeah, they're basically, right there with like the Lions is the best run defense in the game. Obviously, they do a lot of really cool stuff in terms of their pressure looks and the way they kind of mix and match their blitzes, but they are so good in the run game in terms of their, contain and just tackling. I think it's a tough spot for Taylor. He has just 10 targets, as you were noting, 10 targets in 7 games with Richardson. It's just not going to get it done, man. So I'm with you. He's basically just kind of a volume-based, touchdown-dependent RB2 at this point. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, that depresses me. Brett, anything to add here in this game before we move on?
No, I will say the Denver Broncos rush defense the last 5 weeks is stuffing 53% of the runs against them, which means 2 yards or less 53% of the time. That's actually kind of insane. So
all right, so I feel super vindicated. Take that, Andy Buckler, the Dynasty Points Market Report. How do you like them apples? When I need to, I bring in the Fields, and they set the tone. Remember that. Let's move on to what I am calling the First Read Bowl. I'm sure there absolutely won't be a dedicated half-hour segment to this game on the first edition of First Read next week. 54.5 point total. This game is supposed to absolutely slap. Is it a start everyone game though, Brett? I'm going to go to your expertise here with Khalil Shakir, because he obviously had the big play, broke a tackle, scored the touchdown, looked great, but he has been kind of a hit or miss guy this year for the most part. But does he become a must start in this matchup? I like Shakir this week. I totally don't personally have a bias to this question. Not at all. So could you please give me a little insight on Shakir in this matchup versus your Lions?
So initially, when I started diving into this game, I initially thought that was going to be my angle, Shakir all day. Then you go look at the numbers, and the Lions, after starting the game or the season being really, I guess, flimsy against slot receivers, they have tightened up dramatically. Amik Robertson is playing ball right now, and gosh, it's like through all of the injuries, somehow they still get better in some ways. It's a weird season, guys. But man, like the last 4 weeks, they have just been erasing slot receivers. So it's totally flipped on its head. Like what Jaden Reed have last week, 1 catch.
Yeah, none. He had 0. He had 1 target, no catches.
0.
I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure if that was a production of like the LaFleur too many wide receivers, or if that was actually a Lions thing. So that's actually good to hear.
It's probably both. But that's 4 games in a row now where the Lions have allowed 35 yards or less to slot receivers.
No, that's a trend. It's been a trend, and the volume is really good for the Bills. Like they are right there with the Bengals and Chiefs among the most pass-heavy teams in the league. You basically take away that snow game in Week 13, they're right there. They're just throwing a ton. So, yeah, maybe not as great of a matchup as it looked like for Shakir. I got to say, though, this is the first week all year that Josh Allen will have Shakir, he'll have Amari Cooper, he'll have Keon Coleman, and he'll have Dalton Kincaid. All these dudes are going to be back. Kincaid will be back. Coleman has missed the last month with this wrist injury. He'll be back. This game is like absolutely start him if you got him. 54.5 total is the highest total we've seen all season. Basically, the only player in this game I'm off of is Kincaid. It's just because he's coming back from the injury and he's been pretty bad this year, just tied in 19 by PPR points per game. But I think you can play Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman, just playing these guys attached to Allen, attached to this super pass-heavy offense. Brett, I think the trickiest guy in the game, though, is Jameson Williams. Obviously, Bills don't give up anything deep. Fifth fewest passing yards allowed on deep passes. They play a ton of too high.
Did you watch
JMO? What do you think about JMO on the spot here?
Did you watch the game on Sunday? Did you watch the game on Sunday?
I did.
So I mentioned that tendency breaker at the top of the show with Buffalo.
Yeah.
They sold out to stop that run. Well, guess what? The Lions run the ball about 3 times as good as the Rams do. So I don't know if they're gonna roll in and play an extra linebacker, play single high coverage across the field. So the Lions win by double digits.
Well, if they play single high,
I think the Lions win by double digits anyway.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, that's probably the biggest truth here. That's definitely it.
I didn't want to be that guy, but yeah,
I'll do it for you. Don't worry.
I mean, you're either. What side of the coin do you want? Do you want to play too high and get run on all day and not allow an explosive, which is what the Bills have been doing, or do you want JMO to maybe get beat you deep? I think that's.
I would say if your run defense could be average or better, slightly better, I think you play too high and don't let them beat you deep. Problem is the Bills get gashed when they play too high. I mean, look, first play of the Ravens game set the tone for the whole game. 87-yard run by Derrick Henry. They didn't recover. Kyron Williams comes out this game, first drive, completely controlled the line of scrimmage, and they had to make the switch immediately. Never recovered. Now, obviously, they made the comeback late. They still fell short.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how. Just because the way the Lions run the ball. And by the way, the Bills' defensive line kind of stinks. What is Ed Oliver doing? Is he just out to pasture collecting a pay? Like, what is going on?
I don't know. Definitely.
He had 9.5 sacks last year. He's one of the better D tackles in the league. He's got 1 sack in 13 games or whatever, 12 games. It's ridiculous.
It looks like a completely different player, to be honest. The thing with Jameson Williams, Graham, is he really hasn't been a difference maker aside from 2 games this year in PPR points. He's got 2 games of 20 or more points. He's had some decent mid-tier games that have been touchdown dependent, but without those touchdowns, he still just is what he is, a 10, 11 point kind of player. I'm not trusting him this week. I don't think I can. Like, maybe I've got that read wrong, but Brett, I talked to you about this. It feels like they use him differently now than they used to, but it just feels like the only ball this man catches is deep in routes. Like I remember messaging you about this. That seems like every time I look up and he's outrunning like 6 people, it's all from the deep in route.
So those are typically their crossers on their Yankee concepts. What they've been using him on lately, though, he's been a possession receiver, and that's why he's not breaking PPR stuff. They realized, one, Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to absorb a ton of coverage, and Goff loves the intermediate part of the field. So, and 2, if you ever want someone to give the deep ball back to JMO, you have to prove he can win underneath and short and intermediate, and so that's what they're doing. They're putting stuff on tape for later. He's been winning on hitches and digs and slants here and there, and so he's really been good at finding soft spots in zone. He's been way more valuable to the team, obviously, than fantasy. But guys, has the Detroit Lions dropped the pass this year? I think that number is still 0. There's a reason this team's won 11 straight games, and it's pretty remarkable. There's like every metric is crazy when you look at it.
So obviously we're playing both running backs, right? Because
yes.
It feels like the Lions are a team that are very much aware of their narratives and what records and things like Montgomery is so close. Like they're so close to being the first team in NFL history with 2,000-yard rushers and 2 10+ touchdowns. I feel like Montgomery is just a smash. You're playing both running backs. That's obvious. Sam Laporta, though, I want to talk about Sammy Laporta because he had me looking so foolish at the start of the year, but 5 for 54 against the Packers. It feels like he's getting more involved. Brett, are we back to being confident with playing Sam Laporta, or is it still a little bit wishy-washy?
I would say yes, but not in this game. The role is coming back. He's finally healthy, by the way. I think after the Week 12 game, Campbell said, "Hey, this is the first game Laporta was fully back." Right, so we've been angling for that all year. But the Bills just got back Matt Milano. They have Dorian Williams, who's emerged as a great player. Terrell Bernard balling out. They're strong at safety. Taron Johnson's a tight end eraser when they use him that way. I just don't love the matchup for him this week, but I do agree moving forward. I'm way more confident starting Laporta.
All right, just not this game.
Yep.
All right, obviously we're starting all the studs. There's one more player I feel like the fantasy community would shun me if I didn't ask about. Tim Patrick. Brett just seems to be involved.
Hopefully you guys listened last week when I said Lions were going to make sure that guy got a touchdown in that game. They got him 2, almost had 3. I mean, he's going to be frustrating though. You can't rely on him on fantasy yet, guys. I'm sorry. He's a dirty work kind of player, and they like to reward him here and there, obviously with the touchdowns last week. But man, nothing you can really do with him in fantasy, I don't think.
All right, we're not using him as a flex option. Let's quickly head over to Bucs Chargers. Trying to keep us moving as fast as we can here. Lots of games to get through, though. Tons of fantasy options. Let's start with the Bucs. Mike Evans did not do what everybody was hoping he did last week. Might still be lingering a little bit, but Jalen McMillan, Graham, is starting to get a little more run. And per the Coach Speak Index, the coaches are talking about him playing more and more every single week. Do we like him in this matchup? I'm going to him because I feel like everyone's just playing Evans. We're playing Baker. We're playing these guys, but it really comes down to Shepard and McMillan for fantasy managers. Any more trust in McMillan based on the matchup or anything that you've seen?
Yeah, I always want to, have a little bit of interest in these rookies late in the year. He might get a roll bump too this week, Thomas. Sterling Shepard has this foot injury. Not somebody we're relying on in fantasy, but, it's obviously good to see McMillan, back healthy, playing well last week. I'm going to have to take the L on Cade Otton. He had the long catch last week, but that was really about it. Basically, since Mike Evans came back, he's been a distant secondary option. By first read target share, he's even behind Sterling Shepard over the last 3 weeks. The offense is basically just condensed around Evans, even though he's probably a little bit less than 100%. Obviously, we're waiting on Bucky White and his back injury. He didn't practice again today.
Did you say
out.
Bucky White?
Bucky White. I combine both of them. We got a cyborg
together. They're
a Bucs running back.
Yeah, take that, Sean Tucker. You don't get into the name game.
Yeah, no, we can completely forget about him. But I was just going to say, if Bucky Irving's out, obviously Rachaad White just becomes, must start in this spot.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead. I was
going to say, I think Rachaad White's must start anyway. I mean, we're still talking about a guy who's basically, a 16-point per game running back here on the year, splitting. This is a top 5 most valuable backfield in fantasy. I think I'm playing Rachaad White either way. But, Brett, what do you got?
I was say that it's kind of a storyline that's not really being talked about enough. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have turned themselves into a power run team. It's a remarkable transformation they've gone through over the last 6 games. 150 rushing yards per game, 5.24 yards per carry. The only team better than that is the Philadelphia Eagles. They've actually surpassed the Detroit Lions as far as their run game proficiency. So that is insane. Nobody saw that coming. Literally nobody. I mean, this offensive line is really gelled. Bucky Irving is gave him this wiggle, and it's helped Rachaad White be a little bit more physical as a runner. The whole thing just looks nice. And and they're doing it with a lot of explosive runs too. Their explosive run rate's only 3.5% over that stretch. So they are grinded out. It reminds me of what Detroit was doing in 2022 when that run game kind of started coming together. But really impressive stuff, man.
Well, it shows with Baker Mayfield, right? He failed the top 19.7 fantasy points now in 4 straight. From weeks 9 through 13, picked it up in week 14. But you're right, it's definitely reflected in Baker's play and again Evans. But Evans is chasing records, and come on, Brett, come on. For fantasy managers everywhere, I fully believe that we can get another 232 out of Evans in week 17. Don't dash my hopes like that. We're trying to keep it positive here in this bit. Let's talk about the Chargers. My greatest fear has been Greg Roman for Justin Herbert. Apparently part of that is Justin Herbert can't hit Josh Palmer on a deep ball to save his life. I don't know what's going on with that connection, but can we trust Justin Herbert this week? Ladd McConkey, it seems like we're getting him back this week, Brett. And if he is back, are we just back to wheels up with Ladd?
I said on the First Read podcast, if this is a great matchup for Herbert, if he has Ladd back, I feel really good about the Chargers in this game. If he doesn't have Ladd, I think the Bucs do enough to win this. Either way, though, it's a great spot for both of them. If the Bucs have just been really bad in their secondary, they've been torched 5 or 6 times now for 350 plus. So it is what it is.
Speaking of them being really bad, let's talk about Quentin Johnston. Obviously up and down, gets mocked a little bit for the broken coverage stuff. Obviously benefiting the most in the league. Last I checked, courtesy of the Fantasy Points data suite, which you can get at a wicked discount right now at FantasyPoints.com. Company man, see Graham, that's the plug right there. Obviously, he had a little bit better game though, Brett. Last week he was making some more difficult catches, but Graham, I'm going to put it back to you. A lot of people need flex plays in the fantasy playoffs. The matchup looks great. Decent game last week. Great spot for Herbert. Does that mean we have any confidence in Quentin Johnston this week?
He's in play. I mean, just because the matchup is good. But yeah, if McConkey's back, I'm just hoping they just come back and just funnel the ball to him. And Brett, you were saying you love this matchup for Herbert. I'm all in. I mean, he is killing cover 3. Bucs are running cover 3 46% of the time. Herbert is top 5, top 8, and basically every metric, advanced metric that you want to look at against cover 3. So if he's got Ladd this week, I'm with you, Brett. I'm all in on Herbert bouncing back in a big way here in a game that I think could really shoot out.
Love that. The running game though for the Chargers, this is a complete stay away from everyone. I don't even think Gus Edwards.
Yeah, it's part of the reason I like Herbert here too. I mean, they just can't run the ball. You know, Edwards has been dusty. Kamani Vidal should, come up a little bit more, but they just have not been able to run the ball all year.
Vidal's a fake player. I'm not expecting nothing for that guy. I can't do it. Can't do it. Won't do it. And Twitter, you can't convince me to do it. So take that. Obviously, I think we're just playing the regulars here in this game. Not a whole lot out of the ordinary. Just want to see Ladd become fully unleashed. Herbert also, though, Brett, running the ball a little more, which I love. But injury here, I think it's the ankle. Not so great. I think we can move on to the next game unless anyone has anything to add. Let's talk Steelers and Eagles. The one week I massively become an Eagles fan. No particular reason at all. Don't look behind me. 43 over under here. Let's talk about it. I mean, some people have said the Steelers are the best team in the AFC. Let's find out. Brett, what do you like about Russell Wilson and how he's been playing? And obviously without George Pickens, this is going to be really tough, but can you trust Russell Wilson here in the fantasy playoffs here week 15?
I mean, I wouldn't. I don't. Look, Russ has been great for Arthur Smith. He executes that offense the way Arthur wants it to be run. George Pickens, though, is probably going to miss this week. I mean, who is Russell throwing the ball to? Yeah, he's out. So
yeah,
maybe a run.
Yeah, and the Eagles outside corners is like no fly zone.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I really don't have a whole lot from this game. I do like Pat Freiermuth again a little bit. I liked him as a streamer last week. Got there with the touchdown. It's just because Mike Williams and Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson are just not going to have any room to move on the outside there. So I do like Freiermuth a little bit. I think Eagles are just going to truck them in this game. Even though I thought Eagles would truck the Panthers last week too, but I was wrong. I was wrong about that.
I don't think the Eagles are playing that great. So
they're not, but I don't think the Steelers have much of an offense with Pickens.
I picked the
really bad last week. It was just all Jameis melting down.
Yeah. I played the under. Sorry, in this game, I don't think
like that
hits the 43.5 or whatever it is. It can be real run heavy on both sides. Jalen Hurts kind of looks busted. Pittsburgh's healthy on the D line too, so you would think they'd be able to limit Saquon Barkley pretty good there. Alex Highsmith is back. Cameron Hayward has a defensive player of the year candidacy going on with TJ Watt. They're in a battle. And then Keanu Benton's been balling too at the other tackle spot. So I think this definitely is a candidate to go under, and I think both rush offenses struggle to get going.
Interesting. So obviously maybe we don't expect a winning week from Saquon Barkley then.
Well, I don't. That doesn't mean that I'm in anyone agrees with me on that. So
well, that's why I said maybe. I gave the protection there, right? From the YouTube comments, which you can leave down below after this. In fact, we encourage it. Let us know what you'd liked, what you didn't. A lot of talk about AJ Brown, though. A lot of obviously the tweet from not that long ago, as he quote tweeted saying, I'm always open, watch the film type stuff. And then obviously the comments didn't even wait to get to Twitter for the next round of comments. Any chance at a squeaky wheel game? Last time we had a squeaky wheel attempt, at least with AJ Brown, went absolutely off, Graham. How do we like the wide receivers? Should we just be peeling back expectations a little bit? I kind of think they try to force the ball to AJ Brown. What say you, good sir?
Against JPJ, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say that too. Yeah, this is not the spot to get a squeaky wheel because Porter is going to be on him. Look, no corner in the NFL scares me when it comes to AJ Brown. No disrespect to Joey Porter. I think
that was my point.
Probably the best cornerback in the NFL right now, but the volume here is just really bad. I mean, we've been on this for a long time here. Brown's 37th in targets per game. Devonta Smith is like 57th in targets per game among receivers. And, Brett's just right. I mean, this is going to be a slugfest type of game. So, I like that call. And, Brown's just going to have to get there on his 6-7 targets. It's what this offense is now.
What a shame. Absolute shame.
Yeah, it is. It's a shame, but it's just what they are, man. I mean, their run game is amazing. And, why would you let Jalen Hurts drop back 35 times when you got Saquon Barkley?
Especially if Jalen Hurts is going to stand there and stare at wide open receivers and not throw the ball. Okay, we can move on.
Yeah, he's holding onto the ball very Caleb-like, if you would. Let's move on to the Sunday night game. Big game, huge game, a lot of implications, 46.5. Let's talk Packers and Seahawks. You mentioned, Brett, the Jaden Reed stuff here against the Lions. He has actually been really bad for fantasy. Romeo Doubs coming back. Yes or no with the Packers pass catchers? Like I can't predict it.
I've retired from trying, so I'll just punt it.
Yeah, you did retire
4 or 5 weeks ago. I'm done trying. So I need some.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I'm out again. Dobbs will be back, Thomas, as you notice. I do like Tucker Kraft again. I liked him last week. The involvement has come up a little bit. I think he's in play again. Seattle, I went back and looked into our coverage matrix tool. They've been playing a lot more too high. It's great for Kraft. He's been targeted on 20% of his routes against too high. So I do like him, but man, I have literally nothing on this Packers pass game. I mean, it's like, you're playing Jordan Love, but I mean, picking one of these receivers is like just banging your head against the wall at this point.
Yeah, not looking great. They've actually seemed to become a running team here. Josh Jacobs seems to be the key cog on this team. Multiple 3-touchdown games in the last 4 weeks. Kind of rare in the NFL anyway. But I have a house for Josh Jacobs. Brett, what do you see with Jacobs? Anything that could deter you? To me, he is a top 5, not 5 type running back this week. What say you?
Yeah, he looks awesome. I'll eat some crow on him too, because I thought that was a ridiculous signing. When they signed him, he just looked so bad last year, and then obviously he's healthy. The O-line in Green Bay is obviously better than what he was dealing with in Las Vegas as well. Yeah, Packers got it going on, man. Their run game is really good. That whole offense runs through the run game, and we probably didn't see that coming into the year. We thought it was going to be the Jordan Love show, but on the flip side, though, guys, Seattle's pretty good against the run, especially lately. Once their D-line got healthy, I think a few weeks ago, they've really turned it around. 46% success rate allowed on the ground, which is up there with some of those elite defenses we've talked about, like Detroit and Denver. So kind of scary for them. I think they can, like, Matt LaFleur is such a good play designer and play caller. I'm not sure it's going to matter a ton. Jacobs has had success against the Lions twice, actually. So, like, I think they're pretty matchup proof.
Love that. Love that. Let's move over to the Seattle side. And a lot has been said about JSN's breakout. A lot of it has been said by me. If you see my Twitter mentions on a regular basis. Fun fact about JSN's I believe 199.6 fantasy points scored this year would have been last year's wide receiver 12. Kind of an amazing statistic how down bad wide receivers have been here in 2024. But he is seemingly the fantasy goldmine here on Seattle. How do we like the matchup this week, Graham? Because I think it's going to have to be done through the air, if at all. How do we feel confidence-wise with this matchup with JSN? More importantly, with DK.
Yeah, it's a neutral matchup for JSN. They're, Packers are, I wouldn't say good against slot receivers. They're not, they're not bad either. You look at the last 4 games. Yeah, JSN has massively outproduced Metcalf, but if you look at their first read target share, Metcalf is still at 36%, JSN's at 24%. But it's just, we've been saying this for a few weeks. Metcalf is clearly not 100% healthy after he suffered that knee injury this season. The targets have just condensed around these two, which is great. But yeah, I just wonder about Metcalf's health at this point. Speaking of health, Ken Walker is most likely going to miss this game. He has a calf injury, didn't practice again today. Basically, every single time Zach Charbonnet has started this season without Ken Walker, he's been the RB1 in fantasy in terms of his role. He's RB1 by snaps, RB1 by percentage of teams carries. He's at 27.3 PPR points per game in these 3 starts. Charbonnet is just an absolute must start, and he looks kind of like a linchpin type player down the stretch here if Walker is going to continue to miss significant time.
Yeah, you have to play Charbonnet. You're right. I don't believe this. We're going to see Kenneth Walker on game day make a decision. You're not fooling me with the attempted Shanahan. You're not getting
that's
that
some Shanahanigans right there, Thomas.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Not buying it. I'm sniffing it out here. No, thank you. No, sir. Brett, anything to add here on the Seahawks offense, or good to move on?
Good to move on.
Let's move on then to the first Monday night game. We have Brett's favorite quarterback to chart here in the league.
Which one?
We have the minute
both Vikings. Of them.
44.5. Obviously, the Caleb Williams stuff has been well documented, holding on to the ball, mismanagement, etc. Brett, but DJ Moore has seemingly turned the corner. My problem with this offense is too much Keenan Allen. What are you seeing?
Oh man, I've seen the same stuff I've seen all year. It's dysfunctional. There's nothing consistent. There's no rhythm to it. I wouldn't say DJ Moore's turned the corner. Maybe from a fantasy points perspective he has, but I mean, shoot, they were in a smash spot last week against a 49ers team that was getting the piss beat out of them, and they absolutely wet the bed. They didn't get the coach bump we were hoping for, right? Only team in NFL history to not get the coach bump. So I don't know. I'm skittish. I'm still skittish on this. I love everyone on the Viking side. I think Aaron Jones is one of the best matchups of the week. Bears rush defense has been just horrific for the last 7-8 weeks. So I like that. But other than that, I'm not too thrilled about anything on the Bears side here.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift, for a minute, looked like he was going to start fooling some people, but he's become exactly what we thought he was. 100%. Roma Dunze kind of had a fake good breakout game here, 4 for 42, caught the 2 touchdowns. That's what I was hoping you would mention, Brett, but the fact that it didn't even get brought up makes me feel continuously sad about Roma Dunze, and every time I drafted him at 105.
His daddy's tweeting about him again, saying any other quarterback, he'd have 1,500 yards. Or sorry, any other team in the NFC North, if he played there, he'd have 1,500 yards by now.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe Scott Barrett has been continuously tweeting the fact that he has some of the most unrealized air yards in the league. Yeah, it definitely feels like any other team he played for would he'd have 1,500 yards, but the fact he didn't bring it up makes me real sad. Jordan Addison feels like he's having the same kind of year as he did his rookie year. Graham, are we chasing points starting Addison confidently this week, or are we back in?
No, I don't think it's chasing points at all. The roles just come up. He has 17% of the targets, I think, in 4 of his last 5. Hawkinson has just not been really much of a, threat at all since he's came back. He had a good game against the Bears, 3 weeks ago? But by first 3 target share, he's like way behind Jefferson and Addison. I'll be honest, boys, I don't really have much from this game from a matchup standpoint other than just keep benching DeAndre Swift. Vikings have been so good against the run. Swift is playing through an injury. I think we've been saying this for a few weeks as well. I mean, Swift just never plays through, well at all through injuries.
Yeah, take that, Jacob. Tried to, after 2 games, tell me I was wrong. No, sir. Absolutely not. You can't fool me, DeAndre Swift. We know what you are. Let's finish up with the last game on the schedule, unless I can't read. That is the Atlanta Falcons and the Las Vegas Raiders. O'Connell, or Farva, better known as, not playing. So let's talk about it. Kirk Cousins has been dreadful, but they have been adamant that they are not going to Penix. They are letting Kirk Cousins figure this thing out. This feels like a Drake London game, Brett. What are we noticing with the Falcons? What do you like and not like about this offense for Week 15?
I'm not calling anything in anybody game until Kirk Cousins isn't playing anymore. So
yeah,
ooh,
it's over, man.
Oh, that's it. I'm good. That's everything I needed. Thanks for dashing.
Honestly, if they weren't in the hunt for the NFC South, they would have gone to Penix, I think, last week.
Yeah, and you could argue that's still the way to save it too.
Honestly,
well, they don't seem to think so. I have been monitoring the Coach Speak Index vigorously.
Bro, the picks are horrendous.
Yeah.
Like horrendous. Like Dusty looking done bad. Like
can't drive the ball. Definitely not throwing to the outside very well. Darnell Mooney had been looking really good all year. I'm guessing the way you're talking, Brett, it's just all a no-go. Except for Bijan. Bijan obviously has been the prince that was promised with everything he's been doing. We're not worried about Bijan, I hope.
No, I'm not worried about Bijan.
Okay. All right. You said not a no-one game, and my heart stopped for a second. I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, I meant in the past game. Like, okay. Listen, Mooney or London might still have a decent game. It's just I can't project it with the way Kirk Cousins is playing. I just can't plant my flag on it. I think Mooney had like 80 of his 142 yards on the first drive last week, and then that was basically it for him. So
over to the Raiders side, we're getting Desmond Ridder projected by Sleeper for negative $1 billion. That's what I have. That's what I'm reading.
I believe the injury report has come out since we started this, and Aiden O'Connell's listed as probable on the week.
Oh, maybe they saw the Sleeper projections and felt like they needed to get Farva back out there. Maybe he's being driven by the leader of Cola and his contract. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm seeing him DNP. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and he didn't practice again today. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Ridder in the ultimate reverse revenge game. I don't think that actually matters. Dude, it's I don't know. Ridder is just he's been a little better by catchable throw rate. We just need the volume for Bowers and Myers. My only note on the Raiders side is I think Sincere McCormick is in a huge trap this week. Alex Madison should be back. McCormick, deserves more early down work. He's certainly been their best running back. It's a low bar to cross, but Madison's going to play in the passing game. Brett, it's funny you said the same thing about Kirk, man. I was watching that game again on Tuesday, whenever it was, and I was like, it's over, like over for Cousins. If they weren't alive right now in the NFC South, I think we would see some Penix here pretty soon. Brett, I wanted to ask real quick, is there any difference that you've seen with the offense with Ridder versus O'Connell? Like, obviously Ridder's, struggling as a quarterback, and anything they do kind of get their guys open differently with Ridder?
Nothing that really sticks out. The sample's still so small, though, to be honest.
I'm just curious.
We have a larger sample of him being absolutely woeful, so I guess
that's two-time Millie Maker winner Desmond Ridder to you, Thomas. He did it last year. He's going to do it again against Atlanta. Atlanta just gave up a billion yards to Sam Darnold.
True.
Jake, Jake, I know if you're watching, you were the one that submitted his projection to Sleeper. I know it was you. You can't. Yeah, I know a Jake Tribby anti Desmond Ridder agenda when I see one. Happy we touched on McCormick. He's getting a lot of coach speak. A lot of people are just auto putting him into the lineup. I'm going to take your advice here, Graham. Shut it down. The only thing I have to add or want to know, are we even downgrading a Brock Bowers, who seems to be everything proof? Are we kind of tempering our expectations a little bit, or still all systems go? I know Ritter is bad, but maybe still a big blowout game.
Graham, what do you like? Bauer's season's been like in thirds. I don't know if you've looked at it that way, but it's like started hot, then had like that weird lull, and then now is hot again. Super strange. I hope it doesn't go to quarters is what I'm getting to. I hope it stays.
Yeah. They got Mayer back too. They got him a little more involved.
Yeah.
Thomas, I would be concerned if it weren't the Falcons. This secondary can't cover anybody. You know, I'm a little concerned with Ritter long term the next couple of weeks, but not this spot now.
Love that. That does it. I will say that it looks like we're getting full volume Garendo, so we'll see how this turns out. Dude apparently is fine. I'm not sure. Game is rainy. Kind of sucks. But that being said, there's a lot of time left here in week 15. The playoffs has arrived. This is everything you've worked for. But don't worry. If you're out of the playoffs and you think your season is over, it's not. You can tune in tomorrow for Cashing Points with Graham, Jake Tribby, and Hilo. You can stick around for Drafter Party with Jake Tribby and Ryan Heath. You have Outside the Box on Saturday. Tons of DFS content. Your season doesn't stop because you did not make the playoffs. Fantasy Points has you covered from start to finish. You can even start diving in to the Fantasy Points data suite right now and get a head start on 2025. If you're looking for, are you looking for rookie information? Well, guess what? Dynasty Points has you covered. We had Brett on this last week to give his first look, the earliest look that Fantasy Points has ever put out in video form at a draft class. That video is up there right now. You can go check that out, see who he left off the list. Brett, we've got nothing but comments about that. But for Graham Barfield, for Brett Whitefield, I'm Thomas Tipple. We made it through. Be back with us next week, week 16 matchup points right here, fantasypoints.com. Have a great week 15.
What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.